When our core wounds meet the physical world, it offers us the opportunity to heal from the trauma and the emotional wear and tear we have endured in this lifetime. How many core wounds are there to heal? In this podcast series, we will talk about them all, healing the emotional core wounding, including the mother wound, the primal wound, so we can walk in our medicine to be the healers that we all are. Join podcast host, confidence coach Susan Axelrod with her very special guest, Kornelia Stephanie. This podcast is one for the ages, living beyond the core wounds. Hello, friends. I am Susan Axelrod, the confidence coach. But today I am Susan, the emotional human. To tell you the truth, these conversations in this podcast have been deeply profound for me. Today's discussion on betrayal and trust is such an important one. And I promise you, I will cry. And also in the safe and sacred space that my dear friend Kornelia Stephanie and I create, I know that that will be okay. I wanted to read just one little piece from Kornelia's book, which is called Peace, the Flip Side to Anger, which is where I first became introduced to Kornelia's emotional processing technique. And I was just getting myself ready for this podcast conversation, and that's why I felt emotional. Here it is. Practicing peace is taking full ownership for everything, including your anger, not projecting your potent energy onto other people or events, leaving you as the victim and them as the bad guys. We cannot fight war with war. We can, we will, and we must offer compassion, understanding, and love for ourselves and for each other. So honestly, this quote just makes me want to sob my eyes out because of how much I have learned about how anger plays a part in so much of our human interactions. Kornelia, I have tissue on my desk. I'm ready for this conversation. Hello, friend.
Hello, my dear. Oh my goodness. Who wrote that?
I mean,
again, when I listen to that and I listen to that was written during a time when I was just discovering this process and healing my own core wounding and sharing what it is that I've learned with others, right? And when I listen to that today, because we're in 2023, that was written in 2014, 2013, 2014. And it's like, wow, you are that when I look back and see how far I've come, it's just really incredible. And also just how pure you said you want to sob.
I did. I wanted to sob just before I was preparing for our discussion, just by centering and breathing. And I read it then and I felt it come over me. That's why I opened that way. And then even now, again, Kornelia, something is coming up for me about how much I have my eyes closed. I have to say this. What's coming up for me is about how much of our interactions with others, all others in our lives, but especially those, we love most, perhaps family members, dearest friends, how much of those interactions stem from under the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we're talking about so much with the core wounds. They're under the surface. They're hovering there. I could feel it, Kornelia. I could feel it. I could feel how much the core wounds are hovering under the surface and why this conversation that we're having is so important, why the work of emotional processing is so important.
So when I, just to go back for those of you that are just listening for the first time, please go back and listen to the introduction where we introduce the core wounds. But betrayal was actually one of the first core wounds that came up in my physical body, in my experience, to heal. But it only came after my soul and me listening to my soul, that my soul wanted its own body of work, that I really needed to dive in and come up with my own body of work, not the work of an outside person, but really what my soul was here to do. And my soul was here to do is to heal these core woundings for myself, and then of course share with others who are also on this path of healing their core wounding. And like I mentioned in the first episode, I think we talked about not everybody has all the core wounds that I cleared in this lifetime for myself. Not everybody has all of them, but people might be able to identify with some of them, but not all of them. But really, the core wound of betrayal was presented first. And it was interesting because when that core wound presented itself, I was in a relationship with a friend. This wasn't a sexual relationship at all. It was just a friendship. And in that friendship, we are attached, and we are, playing out our experience and whatever. And then all of a sudden, what happened is I became really, really triggered by what she did in our friendship, what she did to me, and how that played out. So that's why, the reason why I can tell you it was betrayal, because when I'm journaling, what's going on, I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed by my friend, who I thought was my friend. And my friend, I thought she was there for me. I thought I could lend her money. I thought she would pay it back. I thought, we were friends, and whatever the storyline is. But that's basically how that wound presented itself. And that was back in 2009. So that was pretty heavy at that time, when you can think about the betrayal energy and think about our conscious evolution of where we were in 2009 and where we are today in 2023 consciously, right? And our conscious evolution. So that was really, really hard. And I felt that betrayal wound in my root chakra, in my seat, in the root. So that betrayal, I felt it in my body, in my seat, to the point where it was so dense and heavy there that I couldn't go to the bathroom for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't go to the
Showing
bathroom.
up in the total manifestation in the physical.
Yeah, that's what I'm clearing out, right? So that became activated through my experience with my friend, and the emotional core wound was betrayal. And now I can't sit down for 2 weeks. And I was actually flying on a business trip to Chicago, and I had to show up at an event, and I was walking with that wound fully activated at the time, and not really able to fully sit down and what I was doing as I was clearing that energy out, because I was still a newbie at the time. I didn't know how to emotionally process. I didn't know what this was all about, but I was in the embodiment of the soul's growth, the soul's learning. So feeling to heal is always the motto. Feeling to heal, feeling and being in it, to really dive in it fully, to be with it fully present. And so that betrayal was really dense. It was really dark. It was really heavy. And like I said, it took me 2 weeks before I felt better. Today, when people are clearing betrayal out of their physical body, if you're triggered by a relationship, a partner, betrays you, or a business partner betrays you, or a relationship partner betrays you, it doesn't have to take 2 weeks per se to clear it out, because we can clear things out a lot faster today than we could back then.
Mm. So this is very interesting. I think I'm not sure if there's a soul alive, a human who hasn't felt betrayal of some sort. And there, as you said, there are all the things. So there's betrayal. There's experiencing betrayal by the other, and then there's experiencing betrayal by the self. So these are two different things, but I'm not sure that the energy underlying them is different.
Well, we're going to come back. We're always going to come back to the self, because it is you taking full ownership and responsibility for if you're feeling betrayed, if it's in your experience, you're going to be healing it. That's why it doesn't matter, what it is. But if you're triggered, and if you're emotionally triggered and upset, who is responsible for your emotions? You're not the victim here. That you're the one that is going to process this from healing that, right, and healing and transcending that emotional core wound. But let's just look at like betrayal. Like you said, it's been here for a long time, and many people can be feeling betrayed in many different scenarios. And we can take it back to Jesus's time, when Jesus was betrayed by one of his disciples. He was betrayed. So that betrayal has been around on planet Earth for what we know, at least 2,000 plus years.
Right.
That the humans have been incarnating and embodying and playing out the wound of betrayal in their experiences. And then, so many people that you talk to nowadays, we have somebody here in our KS Media group that, he specializes in, he's called the betrayal coach. So that's what his thing is. So he helps people, process through betrayal as well. So, but the point that I'm making is that, people are going to be asking themselves, why do I keep getting betrayed? Why do I keep attracting people like that? And why do I keep having these same experiences over and over and over again with these people that betray me? Right? Because again, it's an experience to have, so the soul can grow, so you can heal. So why am I keep attracting these kinds of experiences in my life? Until you realize that you're done with betrayal in your life, that core wound, which you can track back all the way to Jesus's time, and you can track it back even further. But to really, really clear the core wound of betrayal from your life, again, it's happening so that you can realize the key word that Susan said: I've betrayed myself. So it comes back down to that part where you've given yourself over to someone else, or whatever it is, you've given up too much of your authority, too much of your power, you've whatever it is. But in the end, it all comes down to you taking ownership of the emotional processing that's there for you right now. And when we look at our new earth, when we look at our new creation, our new world, this is what I asked myself. I feel betrayed. Do I want this experience anymore, or do I got it? Do I want to move beyond this? Or, is this an experience that I need to have again so I can learn and grow and be in pain and suffering? Do I need this again, or can I be done with it? What is that? And then those are the lines of questions that I would take into my investigation, self-investigation, self-correction, self-processing, emotional processing into my journal. But also the question that was asked of my higher self, of my inner being, is, okay, if we're living on a planet of duality, and here there's dual opposites to everything that we're experiencing. So what is the opposite of betrayal? I asked myself that question. What is the opposite of betrayal? What is it that you want to feel, Kornelia? And really, I took myself back into my relationship with my friend that betrayed me. And what is it that I really want to feel? Trust. I want to trust. I want to trust her. I want to trust myself. I want to trust Jesus. I want to trust all of it. I want to trust, right? And that's really the opposite of the core wound of betrayal. So, how can I co create the new earth from an empowered state of being, living in trust now? How can I do that? And that's what we're talking about here today, Susan.
Mm. I just want to say again, I have to say it every episode because there will be people for all time who are watching these videos. And so I keep looking down because I'm writing notes, and I wrote in big letters, what is it that I want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
And then, the answer in this case is trust. So it's interesting how you're teaching us to take responsibility for ourselves, Kornelia. When you said, why do I keep getting betrayed? Right? That's something that's happening to me, right? Why do I keep getting betrayed? And we need to be in the conscious awareness, as I call it, in the consciousness, moving into higher consciousness to be like, why do I keep getting betrayed? Then am I betraying myself? What is my role? What is my responsibility in this? What is in my power to do? And then I love you used the word self-investigation. That's the self-investigation. And I do kind of want to ask a little bit, where does betrayal stem from? From in these younger years?
Well, you can, everything when you're doing the healing work, then it's going to go, the betrayal, you can feel betrayed by God, in your own awakening, that God betrayed me because I didn't get saved, or whatever the words that you're using. I was betrayed by my father or by my mother, where I wasn't really fully cared for or nurtured. But that's not where abandonment is more for me in the childhood. Betrayal for me came with it went straight back to, I went to God with it for me, where that's where I had to go to really fully heal that betrayal wound and be, that's where I tracked it to clear it, to bring it back into the 0 point, into a neutral space. And, again, we talked about becoming the mother, is that I want to be able to live in trust. And that's the opposite of the betrayal, right? And that's the new earth, that's the new timeline. Because if I look back into even Jesus's time, I'm not well versed on the Bible, so I can't give you quotes or things like that. But I know that when Jesus was betrayed by one of his disciples, there is scripture that talks about, he knew he was actually being betrayed. He knew that he was being betrayed, but he allowed for that to all play out. So he was embodying the energy of trust. He was embodying that energy of trust, and that each person is responsible for their own karma, for their own creation. So that's really what it is. But that's how far back us lower humans, when we act out our karma, or we sling those boomerangs out and we project our energy out, that's how far back it goes, and probably even further than that. But I wanted to, again, come be the new human, come with the new template, with the new blueprint, if you will, because I asked my inner being, what do you want to feel? And she said, I want trust. So I want to build and live in a world where I can trust. I'm not projecting it out there saying, I want to trust you. You need to prove it to me. You need to prove it to me. You need to prove it to me. I'm not doing any of that. I need to trust myself. And so I need to trust myself. I need to be able to trust myself. So I have a quick little story to share with you here. Once you heal the emotional core wound of betrayal, Once I completely healed that out, and then started living from a place of trust, a few years passed. That's the reason why I can tell you now that betrayal doesn't happen in my reality anymore, because that's not how I, that's, once you clear it out, that's why I can say you can live beyond these wounds and move beyond it and heal beyond it and consciously live beyond that. So but once that was completely healed out, and I'm talking about removing deep pain, deep, because it's very painful to clear betrayal out. It's
Mhm.
painful. So
Mhm.
once I cleared that out and started embodying my own inner trust, my inner trust with God, God and I are one, and I am living that trust, and I'm extending that trust, and I'm putting that trust out there. Uh, a friend came in and did something to me. And later on, she had messaged me and she goes, I want to apologize to you. You must have felt betrayed by what I did. And I wrote her back and I said, I don't feel betrayed by what you did, uh, because betrayal is not part of my reality. That's
Mm.
She was coming at it from her state of consciousness. She realized what she did and how that possibly could make me feel. But because I'm already living in trust and I've already cleared that out, I'm not living from a place of betrayal, and I'm not having that experience. That's not it. What the experience that she provided for me gave me the opportunity to do is to love her even more unconditionally, as God would love all of us unconditionally. That is what that gave me the opportunity to do. But once you clear the betrayal completely out, and I just want to show you something. I just drew this, just, for those of you that want to work with me personally to clear the betrayal out, I want to show you how it looks inside an energy field. So this is your energy field right here. This right here is your field. This is the core wound of betrayal right here. These are energy frequencies that you're walking around with, and that you're, unless you've got this cleared out, you're walking around with that, sending those frequencies out because, oops.
I'm here. I just gave you a bigger screen to show the picture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
uh,
that's okay.
so you're walking around and you're sending out the frequencies of uh, the energy of what to attract to you, so that you can attract more of that, so that you can have the experience, so that you can grow. That's basically what it is. That's
I'm
you're emitting that frequency. If you still have that betrayal, that's why I said in my reality, I removed that. I cleared that completely out of my field, and now that field, this energy field is trust. This is my energy field. Oops. This is
Yeah,
my
no, we can see it. That's fantastic. I'm so glad I gave that full screen because you can see that that's like a beautiful, simple pictorial representation of what you're talking about. That's the field I want to go. I want to be in. This is my field.
That's my field. That's the energy that I project. That's who I am. That's the work I've done. I can't betray myself and go back on my word, on my work that I've done over all of these years and now start acting in a different way. My field is trust. So no matter what, I'm going to always come back to that. That's my field. That's my program. Because guess what? This betrayal was a program. It was a program that we bought into that is a lie. And once we've healed that and cleared that through, once we operate from our true, original, divine blueprint, which you're choosing, I want to live in trust. She said it to me when I asked her, how do you want to feel in these relationships, in these experiences, in this world? I want to trust. Well, peace begins with you. Love begins with you. Trust begins with you. It all begins with the self. It's all going to come back to the self. And rightfully so, because if you've cleared the density out, you get to put in what it is that you want. So that's why trust then it becomes a practice, right? Because you haven't been living in trust. It's taken me how many years now to walk in trust and go through so many different experiences to remind myself of who I am and what energy I bring, no matter what is occurring in my environment.
I mean, I know the work that you do. Again, it shows up in your authenticity shows up in your teaching and sharing the experience you've actually had. Betrayal is so deep. In the case of relationship betrayal, for example, it goes so deep. I could feel the energy out there of a person who was betrayed in a love relationship, ostensibly the deepest kind, but not really. Certainly, when you feel that you were betrayed by a parent or a sibling, family, whatever, but certainly in a love relationship, and underlying, again, I'm going to say it again. I can't remember if I said it in this episode or another episode, but we're talking about that I would have to take responsibility for the way I'm feeling. So even in a love relationship betrayal, in this case, you're sharing the example of a friend relationship betrayal. What we're discussing here today is your opportunity to no longer feel that pain by saying, how do I want to feel? What is it? I asked myself, my inner being, what is it that I want to feel? I want to feel trust. And so underlying it is that we're taking responsibility for how we want to feel, which does take some grounding. Instead of that trigger, rage comes up, and all the things we've been discussing in our conversations. So there's something about taking responsibility for how I want to feel.
Well, and that's everything we're talking about, right? Even before, when we talked about the mother wound, and I was at the party and I said to you, what do you need? And she said to me, my inner being said, I want to be held. I want to be listened to. I want to be loved. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And then giving it to yourself, instead of looking outside of yourself for somebody to save you, because nobody's going to come and save you. You're going to be the savior. You're going to be saving yourself. You're going to be giving it to yourself, right? And that's what I mean by taking full ownership and responsibility for everything that appears in your life, because you're magnificent, you're amazing, you're an empowered creator, and you're here. If you're here listening to this, and if you're here for the new earth. And you're here to experience the fullness of who it is that you came here to be. You're here for healing. You're here for, greatness, while at the same time, in the greatest history ever in the evolution of this planet, of what we're doing. It's so huge. It's beyond. It's so huge. We're going through the biggest shift of the ages. And that doesn't require it requires a lot of courage. The courage that you have. You have it. You have this courage. So sitting with the betrayal and being done with being betrayed in this human incarnation is a choice.
Oh, I can hear in my ears. I have my dear beloved friend, and she would say to me in the day, this goes back many years, like, how are you doing this? How are you not taking something personally? Right? How did you experience that and not take it personally? And I have right here, right next to my desk, the 4 agreements, right? And you can see all of my things here, my marks. And that's really what you're talking to us about today. I can take it personally. I can feel those feelings. I can allow rage to rage underneath, right? We called it the fire before. I can feel betrayed. I can make assumptions about how that betrayal occurred or what was happening in the other person. But the truth is, the only control I have is what you're, telling us. I wrote down taking responsibility for how I want to feel. You are going to be responsible for yourself and your feelings and how you show up for yourself. And so I wrote my own diagram, on my page. And so I really get the point that I can sit in betrayal. I can sit in the feeling of that, or I can learn what you're talking about, what it actually means to live beyond the core wounds, to live beyond the core wound of betrayal is to move through. It's not easy. You just said it's not like it's, snap, snap, but to move through that, to feel the way I want to feel, which is what? In trust, to trust and be trusted, to feel in trust instead of that horrible triggered feeling of betrayal.
Yeah. And in order for us to really, live beyond the core wounds of the betrayal and live in trust, how people, when at the beginning of a new year, they say, my new word is trust. That's what I want to be. Well, you can live in trust before the new year even comes, and, choose that if there's still betrayal happening in your life, and you're not really sure if you've cleared it out, you can embody that trust by really clearing out this betrayal wound completely. And normally we don't clear the betrayal wound out when we're in deep feeling of it, because always the job, whenever we are triggered, whenever we are feeling, the number one job during that time is to sit and be in it. And that is not to intellectually find out what it is that you can do to get out of it, but to really feel it, to really be in it. And once we have moved through that process, maybe it is getting in contact with the rage, maybe it is getting crying, maybe whatever it is, but to really allow yourself to feel it, and then in a couple of days later come back to it and say, okay, now are you done with betrayal, or do you need to have these experiences again before you really, what is it that you really want? What environment do you really want to create? I'll just give you a quick little story, Susan. After, like I told you about my friend that had then sent me a message and said, you must have felt betrayed by what I did. And I said, no, not at all. I didn't feel that at all. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel it because I'm in trust. I don't feel that's been cleared out. So no, but what you did, I can see how you would call that betrayal. I could see how that would be. And you felt that I would feel that, but I didn't, because she's still coming from that template, from that betrayal. But that wasn't my experience. But even in walking in trust, in myself, in God, in the universe, in this life, in this crazy unfolding, still walking in trust and being that trust, emitting that frequency of trust, I had a client that came to me, and when it came time to, we were talking, and it was like, yep, she was going to sign up with me, and now she's going to write me a check for $5,000. And she said to me, she goes, I don't know if I can trust you giving me the check, handing me the check over, right? I don't know if I can trust you. And I started laughing because she was projecting her own feeling onto me of I might betray her. So she was the perfect candidate for me to work with, because she still was coming from a place of betrayal, because she was thinking, and that's when I started laughing. And I said, it's really good that I showed up in your reality. I mean, you're a magician, because you manifested me here to have this experience. So the fact that you don't know if you can trust me doesn't necessarily mean it's about me. It's about you. Because it's not me that you can't trust. And that's not the fear that you're worried about. It's about, can you trust yourself through this process? And in the, she did end up signing up with me, and she did end up sabotaging the sessions.
Interesting. Well, that would be where these core wounds run deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
They really run deep. This is why, and we have to end now, but this is why we're having these conversations so that people can listen over and over, play back, repeat, write their notes, and ask themselves these questions. Is this how I really want to feel? You mentioned abandonment earlier. That's going to be the conversation of our next podcast discussion. But before that, how do people work with you, Kornelia?
So you can message me directly on my cell phone. Text me at 360-941-5783. If you want long-term work, of course, I have that mentoring available. If you want short-term work, you want to work with 2 sessions, $500 for 2 sessions, and that can get you started. So that can get you started in the right direction. And, so this is easy to do. I always like to make it easy.
Easy to do and so worth it. I cannot say how worth it is so that you can show up for yourself and feel clear to the point that your friend says to you, how do you do that? How do you not take things personally, So Kornelia, thank you so much for this great conversation. Next time we're going to be talking about abandonment and the opposite, which is safety and security. And I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. I'll see you next time. Take care.